Hi, Dr. Body. Thank you so much for speaking with us today at Head Magazine.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So let's start by having you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
My personal background, my professional background.
Actually, they're both kind of interesting. So maybe a little bit of both.
Sure. I'm a Persian Jew from Iran that fled the country after the Islamic Republic people came out. And I've been here since I was 12 years old. My dad is a physician and my brother's a physician and I'm a physician. So I went to medical school here in the US. I trained, I'm board certified in family practice, trained in emergency medicine. And now I do a lot of regenerative medicine currently. But my main focus of practice for years was emergency medicine.
So how did you come to get involved in cannabis?
My mom, my mother, at the time I was a medical director for NuVeda Healthcare Partners, a large publicly traded company. And I was involved in running Nevada with them. And at the time, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And she went through chemotherapy the first time around, and she didn't do well. She was in the hospital every time she had chemo. And things kind of settled down a little bit, and then the tumors came back. And then I started her on cannabis. When at the time, I was a medical director for a large publicly traded company, and that was a complete no-no in 2013, 14. And I was higher up in the management team. We saw cannabis help my mom. My brother and my dad, who's a very, very conservative physician, were all against it. And I was against marijuana at the beginning. But then I realized how it helped my mom. She would be sitting at a dinner table with us, not in the hospital after chemo. And she was drinking and eating. So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And she lived for 7.5 years with a diagnosis that they usually die within 9 to 18 months.
Yeah, so that's incredible.
Yeah.
I also understand that you have a background in Ayurvedic medicine.
And that's correct. That's correct. Another reason I got involved in cannabis was at the time I had retired from NuVeda Healthcare Partners, and I moved to India to study plant-based medicine, Ayurvedic medicine in Coimbatore. And I became a believer of treating patients with plant material, cannabis included. And believe it or not, a lot of the old Hindu and the sutras from 3,000 or 4,000 years ago had a significant amount of cannabis used in the treatment of their patients. And so that's another reason I became a believer in plant-based medicine.
Oh, I'm a big believer in plant-based medicine and also the Ayurvedic medicine. I've actually been doing transcendental meditation for about 35 years, but also the Ayurvedic medicine has a lot of wisdom, a lot of the plant-based wisdom in all the many cultures. There are many cultures. There's a tremendous amount of wisdom, which I think is gaining a lot of respect again.
Yes.
So let's talk about the sanctuary for a minute. When did you open the sanctuary, and what makes the sanctuary special?
We were one of the original license holders and had one of the original applications in the state of Nevada on the medicinal side. As we grew it recreationally, we had partnered up with a group for a while, and that didn't work out. And I basically took over approximately 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago, and we put together the sanctuary dispensaries, has the ethos of giving and being part of the community and for the well-being of all of our tribe members. And a lot of those ethos mimic the ethos of Burning Man, which is about art and giving and humans as a whole. And that's how we created the ethos and the ethics of the sanctuary. And we are very medically driven. The owners, the majority of the owners are physicians. And we have seminars every other month, podcasts, and we interview people with knowledge in alternative medicine, cannabis-derived medications, treatments, PTSD, and so forth.
Yeah, I visited the sanctuary when I was in Las Vegas very recently, and it's a very cool place. You've got a great staff there too.
We think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know that you're somewhat of a specialist in pain management as well. And so how effective do you think that cannabis is in pain management?
I am not a pain management physician, but my companies manage pain management centers. So my partner is a pain management physician, and I think he's got a significant effect on reducing our pain. And more importantly, I believe that it has and will have more of a direct involvement in reduction of our opiates, morphine mill equivalents that we are currently using for our patients. We are involved in a study within our pain management centers to do a double-blind evaluation study to see how much we can reduce our opiate requirements for our patients with cannabis.
So there is a push now that you're working with to reduce the dependence on opioids, and you think that cannabis can be very helpful in that regard.
And then absolutely, I sat on the governor's, not this governor, but the last governor's task force for our opiate crisis and opiate management for the state. We put in significant regulations to reduce the total opiate use prescriptions and manage, especially our primary care centers in the state. We've seen the devastation of opiate overdoses, which is now surpassing our deaths through accidents. It's significant, and Nevada is one of the lower states on quality management of opiates, or should I say one of the higher states in opiate use. So I believe that for sure it reduces the opiate requirements. I've seen it anecdotally, but we're now putting a study behind it. But I am very confident that it's going to play a significant role in the future of our pain healthcare of our patients.
It would be nice if it was taken off of Schedule 1. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But it would also be nice, I think, that, in my opinion, that it would be nice to still retain independence. I worry once it's legalized or that the drug companies will take it over and that it won't be as independently managed. Do you think that that's a concern?
I have no doubt that is going to happen. I think the U.S. government and the larger pharmaceutical companies have already understood and are effectively involved in what the future is going to look like as far as owning patents and so forth. So I think there's going to be a big push to standardize and control it. And I do believe that there's going to be a unification of the larger pharmaceutical companies to manage cannabis as a drug.
And do you have a feeling about that one way or another, or?
You know, I have mixed feelings. I think the more money we have behind it and the more standardization that we have behind it, the better is going to become. But then I also think that individualism and our ability to be involved and growth as individuals is what I long for. And I think there's a lot more creativity could come out of the individual.
I agree with you completely on both counts, on both counts. At least for now, maybe we can get it off of Schedule 1, but we'll see. I know they're working on it, but, now regarding the endocannabinoid system in the human body, do you think in general, the ingesting of marijuana or THC or CBD in itself can help people fight, underlying conditions because of the way that it connects with the endocannabinoid system? Do you have a point of view about that?
I have a huge point of view about that. I teach this stuff. I believe in this stuff. And the CB1 and CB2 receptors are obviously in our body, and the endocannabinoid system, which it modulates and allows the modulation of our body's endocrine and a lot of other systems are significant. So therefore, absolutely, it plays a role. And that's why I believe for thousands and thousands of years, they've used cannabis to manage this CB receptors, which is both in the brain and on the musculature, and has a significant effect on our nervous system, our brain and nervous system, and allows the modulation of our activity and works in a very specific portion of our brain near the substantia nigra that really is important and is understudied. And keep in mind that a lot of these studies have been pushed away because of non-FDA approval on abilities to conduct major studies on them. And I have a feeling they're just going to flourish. And hence the answer to your prior question is, larger big pharma people coming in, is it good or bad? Well, it's kind of good because they'll have the funding behind, making these studies. Barring the individuality of this thing, but I think there's going to be a significant amount of studies on the CB receptors and all the subsidiaries of the endocannabinoid system, which includes the CBD, CBN. There's like 200 plus byproducts of the CB or endocannabinoid system that we're just getting used to. I love CBN. I love extracting CBN for patients and for cancer patients because it allows them to be hungry and to fight the, I still believe the archaic way of fighting cancer with chemotherapy. But at least it allows patients to be hydrated and have enough nutrients to be able to fight the sequela of the chemotherapy. So there's a lot of these, my knowledge is very limited as much as I study this stuff. And I think a lot of physicians' knowledge is very, very limited on this because nobody's taught us. Right? And it's still because of the fact that it's federally regulated. There's not a lot of CMEs, continuing medical education programs that discuss the endocannabinoid system and the use of cannabis to treat patients.
Is there any advice that you can offer people who suffer from anxiety in regard to which cannabis products might be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the anxiety is very similar to the pathway of the PTSD, right? And the amygdala, which is the regulator of us getting into a vicious cycle of PTSD, which essentially is anxiety, but there's factors that trigger PTSD. So for our veterans who've been in war, it could be, fireworks.
Mhm.
Fireworks is we might be doing a presentation on how fireworks, PTSD, and marijuana can, how can we manage patients with PTSD during 4th of July fireworks when these fireworks go off, and it puts them in this vicious cycle and then immediately causes severe anxiety, and these people become dysfunctional. So anxiety is a byproduct of multiple issues. PTSD is one of them,
Mhm.
and the treatment of choice. I think cannabis is fantastic. It works on the amygdala, and the question is, well, what type of cannabis? I really like that.
That's my question. What type? Particularly because a lot of people, I think, do go to cannabis to try to self-medicate for anxiety problems.
Yeah, I think a combination of the CBD THC combination, if you could get a ratio of
Mhm.
close to a 1-to-1, or even a 2-to-1 THC to CBD combination that works well. I think the indica strain
Mhm.
would have more of an effect if you can find an indica strain mixed with a CBD on a
Mhm.
1-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio of CBD. I'm sorry, THC to CBD would be the most effective way to manage anxiety quickly.
What about the CBG? Do you have a feeling about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, CBD is really a broad spectrum, right?
Mhm.
So it covers a bunch of other stuff and has a entourage effect when it's used with THC, which means that they work well together to get the effective result.
Mhm.
Now, CBG has a huge calming effect on patients,
Mhm.
100%. But just pulling out CBG for anxiety works well, but I think you still will benefit from the entourage effect of
Right, with
having
the with
the
but the
combination of CBD and
CBG
THC.
1-to-1 or 2-to-1 or whatever. How do you feel about, they have these ones now that are 2-to-1, 3-to-1 CBD to THC.
I think the I'm a physician, right? The less psychoactive, the
Mhm.
better for me, as long as you get the entourage effect.
Right, right. I think you need some THC and with that. And based on that, I mean, it's confusing. There are so many products that are out there, that they have tinctures, they have edibles, they have flour, there are all kinds of things. I mean, are they, in your opinion, I know it's very difficult because everything is so personal and so unique to the person and the strain and everything, but between tinctures and edibles and flour, do you have any thoughts about how those are used optimally for different situations or the result that people might feel?
Yes, yes. Again, as a physician, I advocate more of a non-inhaled products.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you need an immediate effect, inhale is the fastest
Mm-hmm.
way to get the medicine inside of you. And now tinctures sublingually is pretty fast as well. It gets into the bloodstream quicker and doesn't go through the bypass effect of the GI system if you ingest it. However, the ingested products will remain in your body for a longer period of time. It might take 45 minutes to 2 hours for it to go to the first pass effect. You're bypassing your GI system, I'm sorry, the
Mm-hmm.
gastrointestinal system, and get into your body. But it's longer and more sustained. So I usually advocate for patients or cancer patients or patients that have problems sleeping to have an indica strain edible at nighttime because it will remain and give them the tissue consistency of the levels that it would help them get across. If somebody needs an immediate effect, inhaled or sublingual.
And do you find that the CBN lately, I've been hearing about how CBN helps with sleep. Do you have a particular point of view on that?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, CBN is really good for appetite management, as increase your appetite, and also resting the sympathomimetic system, which the fight or flight system. So it kind of takes you out of that flight or fight system and allows you to decompress.
What about those of us who are trying not to increase our appetite? Do you think that there's anything we can do to?
There's a lot of these new studies that are coming out. I'm not well versed on the weight loss portion of stuff. I would assume it's going to be a sativa strain of some sort, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Okay. I just had some of my friends want me to ask you that, so I'm asking. Now, I understand that you did a kind of a well-regarded and kind of famous study about the THC helping the glioblastoma in the brain.
Oh, I didn't do this. I didn't do the study. It was a Spanish study that came out approximately, I'll say 6 years now. And it was a study on glioblastoma in mice. And it was I think is one of the best studies I have ever seen as a whole. And certainly I believe is the best study in the cannabis industry that actually showed that mice had not only the reduction of the progression of the tumor size in their brains when they use THC and CBD on those mice, but it also had a curative effect that it actually reduced the tumor size.
Yes, I don't know if you're familiar with this physician, Dr. Michael Moskowitz in Northern California. He's kind of a pain management doctor. I did a fabulous interview with him, and he talked about how he feels that he cured himself of cancer using, quite a lot of THC. And anyway, he's written many books and things like that, but I didn't know if you're familiar with him. But that was
I've heard of him. There's a lot of anecdotal stuff that I've seen. I've honestly seen some really significant outcomes anecdotally on patients with breast cancer.
It's early on, and it's a lot of anecdotal stuff. And that was the first time in that interview that I'd actually heard about that. It was just so shocking and eye-opening to me. And now secondarily, you're referring to this study is also very I don't know. It's quite an amazing piece of information. Now, I also understand that you have cultivation centers as well as the dispensaries of the sanctuary. Is that something that you're also working on?
Oh, absolutely. We've been working on this for a long time. We have a very high-end hybrid greenhouse that allows us to grow our product with the exposure to the sun spectrum, which I believe that allows the full development of the endocannabinoid within the cannabis plant. And this also allows us to use genetics that we could, we also have manufacturing centers. So we have a seed to sale process. And a lot of companies have their own direction with their seed to sale process. I think we pat ourselves on the back for being medicinal or geared towards medicinal outcomes. So we have the ability to use genetics that we want, that would give us the CBD ratios that we want, or some of the expected endocannabinoid effects, that we could start from the seed and the plant, make sure we control the entire process, make sure that what we provide is clean, has gone through our systems of cleansing. Because a lot of times this stuff comes out, and we have a lot of lab testing that we do in this state. It's very stringent, but there's some stuff that probably is not covered by all lab studies, and putting a product that could be used, considered medicinally, at least the way I look at it, and my standards need to be, go through the ringer to make sure that we do no harm. In our Hippocratic oath, right? Do no harm. So we start from the seed process, and all the fertilizers that we use and so forth, they're natural and no heavy metals and that sort of thing. And then all the way to our manufacturing facilities and to our shelves for our patients to be able to have a consistent medicine that they can use.
Well, I have a lot of confidence in your integrity in this regard, and that's saying a lot, in this industry.
It's one of our core values.
Now, is your product have a name, or do you have a strain or something that is it called something?
Yes. We have sacred brands, and our motto is from seed to soul. On the sacred brands, we also have a medicinal brand. It's called BioVale. That includes it's the same material that we'll be using for our study to replace opiates, which is a colloid product that is one of the only ways to be able to mix water and oil together. And it's got a colloid molecule, which actually we add to the oil, and this will allow the attachment of our oil particle and hence to the human system. So the absorption is significantly higher.
And that's called the BioVale?
BioVale.
Now,
and it's about 5 times more of an absorption than our regular material.
Now, the sacred brand, that's for, consumption of, for recreational?
Yes.
And
medicinal as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see them, but me personally, I don't see them as always separate.
They're not. They're definitely not, for sure.
Is there anything that you want to, get across here to our viewers and our readers? Any points that I may not have covered here?
Don't be afraid of cannabis. Don't be stuck with our old fashion of thinking, because medicine evolves. Anesthesia for us was a piece of steak and a bottle of whiskey less than a century ago. And now we go through major heart transplantation surgery without having any pain. This is part of our evolution. So please don't be afraid of it. If you have any questions about cannabis use and your medications, all of our doctors have a commitment to do pro bono work.
How do they reach you?
Through our website. They can reach us.
What is the website?
Sanctuarynv.com.
Sanctuarynv.com.
Yes, and they can reach us. And my commitment to the memory of my mother is to have pro bono work on cannabis for our patients, any shape or form that we can.
That's really wonderful and very appreciated. And thank you for speaking with us today.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.